Hey YouTube, Joseph Vollmer here, and in the video today I'm going to be performing a compression test on a 2002 Dodge Dakota with a 4.7 V8. All engines, as far as compression tests go, are pretty similar. Is tear it down to the point you can get the spark plugs out. You want to remove all of the spark plugs, whether it's 4, 6, 8, doesn't matter. You want them all out to do the test. On this Dakota, I had to tear off the air box. Also had to take off or loosen the two coolant lines that cross over top of the engine to go to the heater core, because they run directly over top of two of the coil packs. I will also have to remove all 8 coil packs to access the spark plugs, because this is a coil configuration. Now, the reason I'm running the compression test, this vehicle came in with a miss. Running a power balance test on the scan tool while the vehicle was running showed that my number was low on, was not making much power as the rest of them. Basically, that is a relative compression test through the tool. It doesn't show you truly going on, so we wanted to get the plugs out and run an actual compression test to see if that engine, or excuse me, that cylinder had any compression at all, and if so, where it was. That way we possibly know where to start looking to see kind of a problem we have. Now, give you a little more information on this vehicle. The vehicle itself has roughly 200,000 miles on it. This engine has about 40, give or take a little bit. The engine was the original engine that was in the vehicle. The people that own it have owned it since it was new, and the engine that was in the vehicle, the gentleman that owned it had an emergency, and the vehicle started running hot on him, and he chose to overheat the engine due to the emergency situation he was having, which it toasted the engine, so it got replaced. But you can see on the coil packs and the spark plugs, I'm laying them all out in the order they came out of the engine. That way, if I run a good compression and I know I have what spark plugs and what coil packs to look at, because I know which cylinder the miss was on. So I want to keep everything in order, whether it's on the vehicle, on a workbench, on a cart. I want it all in order the way it came out. That way I know what spark plug and what coil pack came off of that cylinder. Now, a few other words about a compression test while I'm thinking about it. Number one, you will probably not find a spec for what the compression is supposed to be on an engine. Generally, as a general rule, whatever your compression pressure is, you want all of the cylinders within 10% of one another. So from the highest to the lowest compression, you want a deviation of no more than 10%, and that is acceptable. For every 100 psi, that allows 10 psi deviation. Generally, when you're running the test, and I don't know how it'll show up on this one, as you can see, I've actually got it in number 1 cylinder now. I have all the spark plugs out. That way, the only cylinder that is actually hitting on a compression stroke is the one with the tester in it. I get a more accurate reading. I generally let that cylinder, whichever cylinder it is, hit the compression stroke 3 times before I let off the key. But I do the same thing for every cylinder. So whether you do it twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, doesn't matter, but you want to do the exact same thing for every cylinder. Here in a second, you're going to see me bring a jump pack over and hook up to it, because, yes, I'm not sponsored by Advanced Auto Parts. I'm not sponsored by anybody. Wish I was, but I'm not. I just figured I'd throw this in here. Anyway, you're going to see me grab a jump pack here in a second, and it was charged until I brought it over the vehicle. You either want to do that or put a battery charger on it, a 20 plus amp charge. That way your battery stays at peak with all the cranking that you're going to do. That way you get as close to the same reading as possible. you want to eliminate as many variables that could cause a different reading from cylinder to cylinder. Now, I apologize, I had to mute the sound in this video because I wasn't thinking about it. I had the radio playing in the shop in the background, and of course YouTube get me for all kinds of copyright infringement for the music because I don't have rights to it. It's the radio. So unfortunately you can't hear what's actually going on. Hopefully the needle on the compression tester shows up a little bit better once the video is rendered. It's a little bit bouncy as I'm looking at it right now. But I worked my way through the driver's side, which are cylinders 1, 3, 5, and 7. On this engine, 2, 4, 6, and 8 are on the passenger side. I'll work my way through those next. And just to give you a heads up, and you'll see me do this on all the cylinders. All my cylinders were running, I think my highest was 150. Some of them were running 145. Now this is excluding cylinder 6. Most out of all 8, not including cylinder 6, was like 142. So I was definitely within the 10% because at 150 psi, 10% will give you 15 psi. So I was definitely within the 10% except for number 6. Number 6, when I got the compression tester in there, I could hear it popping through the intake, and I was getting a compression pressure of roughly 120 pounds, which seemed a little bit strange. I mean, it was still decent compression. So long story short, which you may see in another video, I did take some time lapse of it, but more or less the final diagnosis, we went ahead and decided to pull the valve cover after we did do a leak down test on it, and it was really funny. And these 4.7s are kind of notorious for kicking out rocker arms from time to time, or having the slack adjusters or the tappets, depending on what you want to call them, collapse. We went ahead and pulled the right side valve cover of the passenger side, and found that it had kicked the rocker arm out from underneath the camshaft. Didn't do any damage to the camshaft. We think that it's very possible that for some reason that tappet collapsed. Basically it's a hydraulic slack for the rocker arm, and that's why the rocker arm got kicked. So ordered a new rocker arm, a new tappet from Mopar, just in case when it got kicked out it did any damage to the bearings and the roller on the rocker arm. And presuming the tappet was pumped back up, but if it had collapsed for any reason, we don't want to put it in and have this person go another couple weeks or a month and have the same thing happen again. And we got lucky, it didn't do any damage to the camshaft, so we didn't have to replace the camshaft. So it's better safe than sorry. So guys, anyway, hopefully you can't hear my dingling children in the background, but this is the basics of running a compression test. You just work your way through all 8 cylinders, do the same thing with each one, record the compression, you can see it bumping, and then that'll give you a baseline idea of possibly where you have a problem if you do. I've run compression tests on engines and had one cylinder come back with absolutely nothing, and it just had a slight miss in it. Tear into it and find that we've got a piston melted down or broken rings or all kinds of stuff. So this can be a very useful diagnostic tool to help pinpoint a problem in an engine, especially if you have a we don't use it all the time. It just depends on the situation. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do me a favor, please rate the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. When you do subscribe, please click the little notification bell, and do me a huge favor, share this video with your friends. You never know, it might come in handy, and hopefully you guys have all learned something from this. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to post them in the comments section. I'll try and answer your questions the best I can. If I don't know the answer, I will try and find it for you. So, thank you guys. Have a nice day. And don't forget, get out there and get